Yeet Fighter is for sale. I know I keep saying it all the time. Anybody catching my videos, contact me. Give me a shout out, email me, and I'll sell you a bin file. You can put it in your Harmony cart, your Uno cart. You can put it wherever to play Yeet Fighter. It's a one-of-a-kind Street Fighter style game for the Atari 2600. There is nothing else like it. You're never going to see graphics like this. You're not going to have gameplay like this on a 2600. Gotcha. I'm playing with a keyboard. Forgive me. I recommend playing this game with a Sega pad though. It plays better with a thumb pad than an Atari joystick. It is a one-button game though. Got me. Whoa! They're being merciless to me. But yeah, I may make a sequel to this game one of these days too. And just try to make it that much better. So, give Yeet Fighter a chance. Send me an email if you want the game. I'm a scholar. People like me. Alright, progress on the game. I have added the little details on the faces and the bodies that make each of the wrestlers unique to the opposite facing as well. So because it uses little pieces of the missiles, either 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, or 4 pixels wide, to change little parts of their appearance, like mustaches, masks, bigger chin, higher shoulder, stuff like that. They have to be adjusted based on whether the character is facing left or right. So like if you have a small missile part that is the chin, when they turn, then it's not going to be where it's supposed to be. So you have to adjust the little the X coordinate. Now the Y coordinates would all be the same because you're dealing with its placement up and down, right? But then from left to right, being the X axis, a lot of them will change. Not absolutely every one of them, but most of them change. So that's been taken care of. Also, I've added what I believe is all of the graphics I'm going to use. I'm not 100% sure because I have a tiny bit of room left, and I'd like to just, you know, put a little tiny bit more in there if I can. So we have Intercontinental belts now. We have World Championship belts. And I have a chair that I put in there that, in theory, I might be able to have the characters use if it doesn't get in the way too much. I'd really like to be able to use the chair. I don't know how great it's going to look. I've also made a list of moves, and I've come up with a variable that's going to help to control the moves. So all the variables have been used up. If I use music, then all of the variables have been used up. If I choose not to use music in the traditional way, using data statements that I've always done, then I'll have 3 variables that are freed up, but I don't think I will need those variables. Now, as far as stamina, I'm still kind of, wondering how I'm going to handle the stamina situation. I could have, visible energy counters, but I think I might leave all visible signs of stamina out of the game. Like, I don't think that, I'm not 100% sure, I'll have to look into this, but I don't think pro wrestling used stamina gauges. It was just, you wrestled each other and then you had to try to figure out if the other character was fatigued enough to get a successful pin. So, regardless of whether I use a visible stamina gauge, there will be obviously something that determines whether the character is fatigued enough to successfully pin them. So something like that will definitely be there. I might make it so that on easy mode the stamina gauge is visible, and perhaps on hard mode the stamina gauge is invisible, or on the normal mode it's invisible. I haven't thought that far ahead yet, but I am making lists. Now my list has gotten very complicated, so I'm going to just kind of just go through kind of the creation process here. Now I don't know, this is probably not going to be legible to everyone here if I put this up here, but what I've done is, first off, a variable list. This is, numerical variable list, A to Z, or A to Z, and everything each variable does is on this list. Okay. And then on the next page, I've got the colors and body types of each wrestler, and this has changed, but this was the original. I've changed the body types, but and some of the aspects of certain colors, but for the most part, this is still accurate, except for the body types, K1 and K2, or U1 and U2. Those have been changed. Okay, so that's all the body types. This is coordinates, so that I can easily see what variables control coordinates. The difference for reflection, so how far each character needs to be past the other to activate the reflection. Okay. I also have the frame list, which is all the different frames of graphics that I'll be trying to use. Over here I was coming up with ideas of words that could use a small number of letters, and that was in case I decide to do the idea where I redraw the numbers as letters to have some words appear at the bottom of the screen using the score. And that'd be neat, I think, to be able to do that. For instance, just using 1, 2, and 3 as numbers, and then having 0, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 all be letters. And then just kind of playing a game where how many words can I make with just that one set of letters. And something to maybe ask AI, right, if it can understand the question. Now then, I've come up with the largest grouping of data to run through here, and that is the variable for moves and all of the different moves that I'm going to try to get done here. And this is several pages, and this is just theory. S is my variable for story moves. And then I have N put back for a timer for each of them. So in the loop that decides what the next moves are going to be, there will be a timer that's controlling it, and there'll be a variable that's setting up the move. And so I have all of these different moves. I have all of these different moves. I have all of these moves, okay, and all of these moves. All right, and that's it so far. But it is 103 different things, and it's going to probably be more. And the idea is that you will cause one of these things to happen through your actions. So once you grapple, then the variable for grapple will activate, and then based on your character's number, different things can be done with the joystick. And then they'll either, like I said before in the last episode, cancel out the other character's move and succeed, or be canceled out by the other character's move and fail. And that's how we'll get the cycle of moves going on over and over again. Very much random until you know the other character, right? So, and that's going to be part of the random number generator. Okay, so I'm going to move through some of the characters here, and we'll just get a look at the left and right. Okay, this is a good one. If you notice, he has hair, like a tuft of hair coming out the back of his head. So we'll choose him, and now you can see the opponent, and as I walk past him, see the tuft of hair now changes to the other side. That's the missile moving. Alright, now let's go to the next screen, and we'll move this guy, and you can see he's the same now. So the missiles have been adjusted. Also, I think I darkened the guy on the left's color slightly so that it wasn't blinging. I've tested this game on a television to see the different color balances, see what I'm dealing with, and I think the brightness is more of a problem in emulation or on modern televisions than on early CRT televisions, but still, as impossible of a task as it is, I need to try to make this work on as many different systems as possible. So let's take a look at the championship belts. Okay, so I'm going to back up here to my story modes in the very beginning of writing out these things, and I've put one for the world champion entrance for the first player and the second player. We'll go ahead and we'll do this for the second player, and I'll go ahead and do the world champion entrance. And right now S is my variable, like I said, for the story, and this is just to test it. Later on, this will be different. Okay, so I've changed it to 6. That's my variable for this for now. And let's see if everything works okay. I hope it does. Okay, yeah, see now there isn't a first player. So it's prepared to show you the second player. So I'm going to cycle through there. And based on their color is the depth of the belt's color that you can see. So you can see there and get an idea of him moving with the belt here. So he can start over here and then enter, and then maybe he can do his arm up pose with his belt, and then I can have the crowd have a louder response, then have him walk up here, and then right when he gets here, we'll have him enter the ring. I don't know, I guess if I want, I could have him go to this scene here and be at the bottom of the screen. And now, so it looks pretty good, but the colors seem to contrast with some of the palettes for the characters. So now let's show it with the first player. This will be, let's see, it doesn't really matter, but it'll be variable 4. Alright, now again, it will just show the character. There we go. Now you can see the layering is very good on the left side. So this is a really great approximation. And I can change the layering, the timing of the layering for the right side, and probably make it show up better on them. So that has to do with choosing their graphic first, then choosing the belt as the second graphic that is layered over them. But as you can see, this looks very much like a championship belt around his waist, right? And I can cycle through each of the characters and get kind of an idea. I can also shift into this scene here and show them walking and what that might look like. And because there's a position above where the sprite is that he's going to be compared to, his x-coordinate, we can see him wearing it from both sides. And that's the world champion belt. Okay, now we'll show the intercontinental belt. I think it looks a little tiny bit different, and that would be 5. But yeah, I'm really happy with how these characters are starting to look. There's so many differences in a lot, and they're very unique. I like it. Okay, there's the intercontinental belt. It seems to have a little bit of different imagery on the front. So there, that could be like a good guy Ric Flair, right? And so if I go to 7, we'll see what the heel Ric Flair would look like with the Intercontinental belt. There we go. And there we have him. And he's walking towards the ring. Now, his layering of colors is covering some of the belt. And that, like I said, so changing when the belt is drawn will help to fix that. Should help to fix it. There we go. So, so we have championship belts now. Let's see, I put a chair outside the ring. Let's take a look at that. It's not much to look at, but I mean, this is an Atari game, so let's see, 8. And these variables might change later on, depending on, you know, what happens in the game. There we go. So now we have a chair at the bottom right of the screen, and so maybe you can go up and grab it, and then they'll be holding the chair, and then maybe you can smack the other guy with it or something. I'm hoping to try to work that in if I can. Yeah, I was thinking of how I would end up doing something as elaborate as a steel cage match, and the suggestion that was made was actually a really good suggestion, trying to have more of a three-dimensional look to the ring, and then only see the rearmost part of the cage. So basically, like you're seeing through the front-facing, the foreground cage part, so you could actually see into the steel cage, and then the characters are moving around and they can try to climb out or something like that, and that would be really neat. Now, there are a couple problems with it. Okay, and I've tried to address these problems in different games. Okay, I'll go ahead and show a game that I think might help to address the problem with the Atari and with wrestling steel cages. Alright, so here we have kind of a mock-up of a volleyball game that I wanted to make. Now I've been dealing with several different ways to approach Cute Beach, which is a game I've been working on for a long time, where you can do pool games, buy gifts for each other, partner up, and then play volleyball games. It will probably end up just being single-player volleyball games, though, just because, you know, having horizontal characters sharing the horizontal plane is very difficult. To have a clean version of that to where it doesn't flicker or mess up. So, but it's basically like, you know, DOAX on the Atari 2600. Now you can see the net that I've done on this one. And this is using mirrored playfields like I would have to with doing a massive steel cage wrestling ring. Most likely would have to, and I'm sure there are probably ways around it. Using DPC Plus maybe, or using the highest resolution of Super Chip, or using PF heights if I'm, you know, really sparse and wide with the placement of the cage sections. But in this particular case, you can see a type of pattern for the net that might also be indicative of a cage, but we're dealing with that same width no matter what. The sections that you see, the widths of each section on playfields in VBB, all of the sections are that wide. So regardless of how thin the section is, its width is unchangeable. So that's showing probably the thinnest or second thinnest. I think it's the thinnest you can get with it. And I actually like this color balance. I went ahead and tweaked the color balance before I did this just now to show, you know, kind of an idea of what this would be like. And of course, there would be a second scene when the ball is hit that follows it up in the air. Okay, and so we would have the ball up in the air and maybe some upper body views, the heads and shoulders, so that you can move the character around to get underneath where you think the ball is going to land, and then you can hit the ball back and forth. Okay, and I've done all kinds of characters. Now, these characters are too tall, so I'm going to be cutting them down shorter. Also, well, not too short though, but I want to be able to have all kinds of cool stuff going on for this game. That's not the point. The point is the net is how I would have to do a steel cage were I to do one. And I think it would probably work to do a overlay steel cage kind of look. Now, that would take another 88 row playfield, which there is no way that I have enough room in my 8th bank ROM space to fit that in there. Because I've used all of the space for wrestling graphics, for the characters wrestling. Now, if I was to make the character shorter, like if the wrestlers were half their size, then I'd have considerably more room. Of course, they'd look more like, you know, I don't know, they'd look a lot different, right? So it would be more like this game rather than my target. I mean, this looks cool and everything, but I don't like the super deformed character look. I do like that it says what every move is. The music's catchy. I like that the crowd is kind of responding. I totally love that Freddie Mercury is the referee, and he's got, you know, mauve pants on and yellow and blue striped ref shirt. That's all excellent. And I used to play this game when I had my Master System, and wanted to play some wrestling. This was what I was stuck with. They didn't have, you know, all of the excellent wrestling games like the Nintendo did. Like Tecmo had, you know, the best wrestling games for the NES, and pro wrestling was really super good. So this would be closer to what I'd be getting, you know, if I shrunk the character. Of course, this is more like what I'm going for, you know, right here. Something where, you know, the characters are not super deformed. They're actually, you know, kind of human sized. And there we go. Got the camera. I don't have the spin kick yet. I have a different kick. Ah. We're just kicking the crap out of each other. That's what we're doing. Oh, I love the suplex. So that's more like what I'm going for, of course. And I'm not looking like that. I'm looking different. My game's my own. It's its own thing. But you know, I want. My point is, I don't want the super deformed little stubby characters. So here's my game. Now. And honestly, you know, comparing the 2600 to the NES is like comparing raisins to candy bars, right? I mean, I'm doing my very best, though, with this. This is all eccentric, newfangled methods of graphics creation. It's me programming in my own weird, you know, not common way of handling things. And as you can see, the background has changed a little bit. I've got some differences to the background. There's less color overall, but there's still some color variation. You know, everything is to free up space. So what I did was I actually took the ring's gray color pattern and I took it down one more notch in resolution. And as far as the appearance of the ring goes, there is no discernible difference. But what it did was made the blocks of resolution, or the blocks of color in their resolution, much wider for the audience. So you can see there's just a wide block of gray kind of in the middle there, and that would be like the viewer boxes where all of the people are sitting. And you've got a couple of empty seats at the very top. You've got either a wall or I guess a more dense crowd up in the front, and I might change that later to just be like a fencing type of barrier wall graphic. So if anybody's paying attention at all, should I have this right here stay that way, this little strip across this part of the background there, or should I make it look like kind of like a barrier, like a fence barrier, or like a, you know, whatever, those barriers they have in front of the audiences. Those are the two options with that. And also, you know, right now the phase of the game that we're in is where we've gone into the realm of turning concept into function. All of the artwork and graphics are there, but I'm willing to try to add anything tiny that could be added, possibly. So the chair and the belts are there, and I have just the tiniest bit of space left. So let's move these guys around and just kind of help to confirm we've got good reversal of the characters. Let's go to the outside of the ring. All right. I really like the Hulk Hogan look-alike there. He's growing on me. I think he looks great. And you know, with the recent passing of Hulk Hogan, it feels like it's an homage to him to have a character that resembles him in there. And so okay, let's try someone else here. All right, now here, a missile is there for his nose, but also for his eyes. So we can see as he changes, the missile has stuck his nose out on the other side. Now, I kind of like that the mirroring with the Atari is not absolutely identical. I think it's neat. It adds character. So it's useful. I also really like this character on the right on this one too, because I think it reminds me of Ric Flair big time. The guy on the right here that I'm currently moving, and he's my favorite wrestler of all time. When I was a kid, it was the Ultimate Warrior, and I still love the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, I've heard all kinds of stories. Like if you listen to Brutus Beefcake, he says Ultimate Warrior was excellent. He was a seriously great, but he was a financially minded bodybuilder turned wrestler who started with Sting. He was the Dingo Warrior. They were a team, and then he left, but Sting stayed. He got picked up. He grew his hair out. He kept his makeup theme, and he became the Ultimate Warrior instead of the Dingo Warrior. So he was an evolution of character. He didn't just spring up in the WWF as a musclehead, but wrestlers have said that he was really stiff. Like, just to kind of earmark the time that this is all happening, Nia Jax just hurt somebody pretty bad in her last match, and fans are calling for her to be fired. And also for the referee, I guess, who did nothing about it or supposedly let it happen. Honestly, I didn't even see the match. I saw the news. That's the aftermath of the match. I watch NWA Power every Tuesday, or I look it up on Roku and watch it right afterwards, depending on how my schedule is. And I really love the look and feel of NWA, and that doesn't set well with the fan base, really. The fan base is always going to be pro WWE, which for old school wrestling fan like me, they're the ultimate sellout. WWF, they betrayed the original design of the combined territories. So back when there were territories, the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, made it legitimate and valid, where there were sparse groupings, and they had trophies and champion belts, and they had like makeshift rings, and it was all based on region. So if your region was really wealthy and had a huge population, then you had massive venues, and they would have radios reporting, and people loved it. It was really a huge cash in. So the Northeast Territory became the WWF. At first it was the WWWF, which is the Worldwide Wrestling Federation. It was abbreviated to WWF. Vince McMahon Sr. grouped that together, and that was the first act of rebellion against the NWA. And eventually, gradually over decades, the NWA was broken into pieces, and it got smaller and smaller, and it became, small. It became, it became the underdog when originally it was the big guy, because you have very little validity to your championship if there are 50 different championships throughout the country. So if someone says, "Oh, my favorite wrestler is whoever, and he's the new champion," I was like, "Well, where do you live? Kentucky?" Okay, so it doesn't matter, because there are dozens and dozens of different groupings, and so the territories being combined by the NWA said, "Okay, now we got one world champion, and all those different little champions." So that makes sense to do that. When the WWF was formed, they separated, and then it devalued the other territories because it was the largest one. And so then people started moving over. I'm not trying to say the WWF didn't do a great thing, but today when people treat the WWE, and this is the problem at hand, like they are the only wrestling. Like if you watch WrestleMania, you're never going to hear news about the NWA. They just don't ever talk about it. But the NWA is professional wrestling. It's televised. It's the most easily watchable wrestling, because you don't have to own some service other than a Roku capable device to be able to watch them. You don't have to pay a whole bunch of money to be able to watch them. And so they're like the WWF was when I was a kid, when it was on every Saturday on TV, so was WCW, so does CWA, so was NWA, and I was a crazy kid. I bought the magazines, and I wrestled with my brother and stuff. So I was keeping up with all of it. So back then, if you got a magazine that was the news about wrestling, it was all of the wrestling. I never got a magazine and it was just like only talking about WWF wrestlers and that's it. They always talked about all the different wrestlers in all of the different companies. But today, WWE is the only one that really gets any big coverage. And I mean, I like all the other ones. I like Elite. I like NXT a lot. I honestly think NXT is better than WWE just because it is wrestling centric and it is less story. I'm not. That's something I've noticed. A lot of the Brits that are covering this stuff, they're like, they have this same trope of only loving roided out, disgustingly roided out wrestlers, which I don't like. And they seem to really care a lot about the storylines, which I don't care about at all. So when I'm watching, I'll fast forward through all the storylines. I don't hear their crap. I don't hear them complaining. I don't care at all. Okay? I will fast forward through every bit of storyline, and the second I see that wrestling match has started, that's what I'm watching. That's what I care about. I don't care about the stupid stories. And I certainly don't approve of the roided out wrestlers more than the other ones. In fact, I don't like them as much, mainly because I don't want people to get the wrong idea. You know, wrestling is not some steroid freak. Okay, wrestling is skill. It is, girls wrestle and they're not super cut muscular. Dudes wrestle, and usually wrestling is like it's a certain type of physique, but it is not bodybuilding kind of competition physique. So I wouldn't want people to get the wrong idea about that. And what's with these guys? Like, are you attracted to that to the degree where that's the only thing you ever want to see? So I'm thinking back in the day when one of the cataclysmic events was Jerry Lawler versus Dusty Rhodes. Jerry Lawler was muscular, but he wasn't cut. And Dusty Rhodes was like big, fat guy. He was really overweight. Both of them were incredibly good pro wrestlers. The selling was absolutely perfect. The stories were, you know, these two guys respect each other, but they're competing with each other for the two different warring factions. Great, whatever. Who cares? And then it was a magnificent wrestling match. You know, if there's anything that I could detract from the NWA over the rest, is that they do stories too, and you might get 2 or 3 matches in an episode, and they'll also reuse stories. But they're starting to make a storyline that's a little looser, and it's not so, like, you know, deep and detrimental that the storyline is, you know, controlling so much, but it's in a game store, which I really like. And they have a kid, like a guy, well, he's not a kid, but a young guy working in the game store, and he's part of it, and the wrestlers come in and talk to him, and it's just excellent. It's very real world, and it's very applicable. Like, it seems like it can relate to anyone, you know? And I like that better than what the WWE does with their stories. Like, right now, though, okay, there's the story that, let's see, that Rhea Ripley is like puppy loving the departed little underling of Asuka, right? So Asuka has her 2 or 3 Japanese female underling wrestlers, and she's their senpai. They're supposed to mirror her and do everything she says and never question her, because she's the gatekeeper for them, right? And so this one is broken off, and she's in love with Rhea, and Rhea loves her, and so Rhea comes to her rescue. And so that's cute, okay, fine, that's wonderful. But and the same thing I said about this in earlier episodes is the more they work the story into the ring, and I don't mean standing there yammering for 20 minutes with a microphone in the ring. I mean the actual interactions between the wrestlers in the ring, with the story worked into those interactions, the more palpable it is to a wrestling fan. But I'm not watching it to watch 2/3 soap opera, 1/3 wrestling, and then the wrestling sucks. I want to watch good wrestling. And, you know, honestly, if you just had a guy come out, you know, like, what, Cordova or something, and just say, hey, I'm here to, you know, kick ass and chew bubble gum and I'm all out of gum, and then he walks out and wrestles, that's my Snoopy dance right there, okay? That makes me hip-hop happy, okay? What I don't like is a huge, long, stupid story where some guy's on and on and on about something, and then they go wrestle, and the wrestling isn't very good. Now, the last episode of NWA was excellent. It was every match was good. Like I said, the one thing I would take away as a negative aspect is there's a lot of story. But the story that they did have, which is the newer type where it's in a game store, that's the fresher story. Like I guess I should say the part I didn't like was where they recycle the same story segments that they've used for the past 2 or 3 episodes, working up to what's about to happen. Like if there's about to be an event in a couple weeks or something, then they'll keep on showing the same clip of that. It's filler, right? And they need to do that because, they're a smaller organization now. Now, in case you don't know, NWA was purchased by Smashing Pumpkins frontman Billy Corgan. Yeah, the singer for the Smashing Pumpkins. So if anybody wasn't completely blown away by Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, then you were not part of that movement. When I was a teenager growing into young adulthood, that was one of the most important music things that we had. I listened to that over and over and over again. I totally loved it, and it still is one of my favorites, like of all time. It's really that good, right? And I'm sure they did a lot of great stuff after it and maybe before it and all that stuff. But most people are probably just going to hear Billy Corgan and think of, old alternative rock or Melancholy, stuff like that. But they're probably, unless they pay very close attention, they're not going to think he's, the new Vince McMahon of NWA or whatever. And I think he owns it, and he is part of it to a degree, but he doesn't exercise like tyrannical control over it, right? He's not like that. So I do very much like that somebody picked up NWA and it's out there now. And I'm like I've said so many times in my videos, I'm the king of unpopular opinions. NWA is my favorite right now. I think that they have preserved the original spirit of televised pro wrestling, and that the WWE is too much soap opera, and they do have great wrestling, don't get me wrong, but I'd rather watch WWE when somebody has put a match up there for me to see and I don't have to see the storyline segments. I never intentionally watch the storyline segments. That's when I'm going to go get a drink, go to the bathroom, I don't know, cover my eyes. But I love this. This is one of my favorite things ever. That is a Starship Enterprise made with PF Heights. Now, the lights on the neck, I think, are maybe a little too much. I might try to adjust them or change them, but anyway, that's what this is. It's your refit Enterprise, what was eventually the A, that was built by monkeys. I love it. I love it so much. This game, I'm really thinking it's going to be great too. Once I finally get it to where it can actually be played. I want this to be a must-have Star Trek game. And of course, people are saying, "Oh, you can't do this because of IP." You'd be surprised what you can get away with IP. So, one of my chatting and email friends said, that Ghostbusters game looks great, but, hey, that's IP. You know who owns the IP for Ghostbusters? Atari. Atari was the last to make the Ghostbusters video game. I don't know if they sold it, but as far as I know, Atari still has the video game rights to Ghostbusters. So if I make that Ghostbusters game, maybe Atari will publish it because they have the right to publish a Ghostbusters game. Maybe even then, I can put the Ghostbusters symbol at the beginning of the game. But my point is, just because you make a game about zapping ghosts and catching them doesn't mean that they can get you for IP infringement. I can make it skate the line and be as much like Ghostbusters as I want, and as long as it doesn't say Ghostbusters, I might be able to get it out there. Then again, maybe not. You know, if they complain and say, oh, you can't. Now, in this particular case, that's obviously the Starship Enterprise, and it really is pushing it. Maybe with the Ghostbusters, they could say that it's obviously, you know, the Reverse Hearse Ecto 1 car, or obviously that's Peter Venkman, obviously that's Winston Zedmore, obviously that's Slimer, stuff like that. But I don't know. I don't know if they really do have that much power over your ability to create a video game and publish it. It could very well be that the names are that primary, the symbols that directly relate to it. Like I could make Ghosts or Bust and just leave it the way it is, but I can't call it Ghostbusters because they own that. I can't have the no ghost symbol because they own that. You know, but I'm not doing that. Well, I guess if you look at it though, in the very beginning of the game, I am, because the ghost that's moving around to choose the locations. You know, and honestly, it's blatantly Ghostbusters. It really, truly is. So a lot of these, of course, unless someone has the right to publish that IP, I can't do it. But if I make this game and then I send it to Atari and then they say, oh, well, we actually do have the right to publish a Ghostbusters game, then yeah, I could be the programmer that makes an Atari Ghostbusters game that's better than any of the other ones from that generation. That's what I want to do. I don't know who owns Star Trek, or if Star Trek could be. I imagine Paramount works through whoever, but you know, Sega was who did the Strategic Operations Simulator game, which was originally a, you know, line drawn vector graphic arcade game, and then it came out for other systems, Commodore 64, I think Atari 8-bit computers, Atari 2600, and several others. The 2600 game is excellent. That Strategic Operations Simulator for the 2600 is one of their best video games, and it's a Sega effort. But I don't think Sega made Star Trek, you know, recently. I think it's somebody else that's making those games, or it could be anyone. It could just be whoever Paramount chooses to allow to make a Star Trek game. But tell me you've seen a better Starship Enterprise on the Atari 2600. I don't think so. Now my idea was to have segments where you're in the view screen here, and then that's a Romulan ship, which you probably never even see in this generation of Star Trek. Why not though? Who cares? And then maybe you shoot a torpedo, right? Like like it's torpedo lock. You shoot the torpedo. Then it goes to this scene, and we actually see a torpedo shoot right there. Go. Then it goes to the next scene, and we'll have a graphic similar to this, only of a Romulan warbird, and then have it either miss it or hit it. Stuff like that, like almost, you know, strategy sequencing, kind of mixed with a little bit of a role-playing element. That's what I'm going for. Not what's already been done, where it's a top-down view, a two-dimensional play field, and you're, you know, zapping things. I really like the view screen in that game, though. I think Star Trek for the Atari, for the 8-bit home computers. That was one of my favorite games when I was a kid, if I had a chance to play it, right? Now, in the original computer game, the ghosts came from all different sides, and you tried to run into them while avoiding the gatekeeper and the keymaster. And so there was a place in the center of the city that the ghosts would try to reach, and you wanted to stop them from reaching that place, and that would keep the PKE meter, the PKE count, from going up. So now I've stopped all 4 ghosts. Now in the Atari one, the 2600 game, I think they just have them coming up from the bottom or the top or something. They don't come in from the different directions. Now the Atari one just had blank squares, whereas I have a city, obviously. I have the little Ghostbuster symbol. I have a phone marking a place that we've got a call from, like a blinking, you know, phone. Then we click it, and we're moving. This is my Ecto 1. Now, as long as I'm speeding up, I will never get to the location, because the speeding up is to actually bring the ghost on the street towards the car so that you can suck it into the car. And I'm not having any of that like buying stuff, getting a loan from a bank BS where you can pick a VW Bug and drive it around, anything like that. This is all you're a Ghostbuster going out and catching ghosts. Now I know that's the best looking Ecto-1 ever on any 8-bit system. I take the Pepsi challenge for even 8-bit computers. My Ecto-1 looks the best. I love it. Carefully designed, and I don't even know how I combined blue, red, and white to get all three of the, or blue and red or whatever. I combined two colors. So here's a quiz for you. How do you combine two colors and get white, blue, and red? Answer that one for me. Because I can't combine white and blue to get red. I can't combine red and blue to get white. I can't combine white and red to get blue. So I went through all these color combinations. That graphic is made by having two single colored sprites layered. And this is actually two sprites layered with another two. Now you can see when the car moves that one half is all red. Now if I let go of the accelerator and go the normal speed, we'll get to the destination. And we have Slimer, both Ghostbusters, and the original first job, where they're in the room, there's the tables with the dishes, there's a chandelier, Slimer is up there flying around the chandelier. Now, Winston Zedmore is in this part, and he is not hired yet. So to keep this story accurate, I should probably change him to Egon or Ray, right, for this particular part. But because I'm, currently designing the different characters' looks and testing them on backgrounds, that's what I ended up with. So yeah, obviously it's blatantly Ghostbusters, and I don't own the IP. I can't call it Ghostbusters. I can't make this game. I'm still going to make this game. And then if by the time it's done, maybe if I aim for next Halloween, right? Maybe then, if I've had 2 games published through Atari, and those are doing okay at that time, my wrestling game that can't be copyrighted, no one can say that I can't make it because it's not any specific company or character. And my fighting game, which might be able to be published, hopefully it is, still going to get published, then I can say, hey Atari, I've published these 2 games. Do you still have the right to publish Ghostbusters? And if they say yes we do, say, can we make this game? And just throw it out there to them. If they won't, then the next step is I just give it away for free. Or I have the game created by my own means and sell it on eBay or something like that as Ghosts or Bust. And that's mildly risky, but it's not really prohibitively risky. I can try it, then they can say don't do it. The same thing happened with Princess Rescue, right? Atari Age made Princess Rescue, even though it is blatantly Mario. It is Super Mario Brothers for the Atari, and then I think Nintendo said you're not allowed to do that, and so they stopped. And when they stopped, all physical copies of Princess Rescue became worth hundreds of dollars or more. But then they said, hey, if you really want the game, just download it. Just download the game and play it. So it helped collectors, it helped gamers, it helped Atari Age, and it let Nintendo spear rattle a little bit like they like to do. So the idea that I shouldn't make this because I don't have the right to make a Ghostbusters game doesn't stop me from making this game. And and the idea that it would be impossible for this game to ever be released as an actual Ghostbusters game, I don't think that's true. I think there is the ever slimmest of chance that this could actually be released as a real Ghostbusters game. So the next thing I'm going to do is start programming interactions. and that means that I'll be adding punches and grappling, and I might add a couple of moves other than punches aside from grappling, like climbing to the rope, standing drop kicks, maybe a running clothesline, a snapmare, things like that. Little things that you can do, a hip toss, you know, things you can do that you're not grappled. And then, of course, the main essence of the game is in that grappling, where once they grapple, then all kinds of different moves can happen along with that. So we should have the game kind of blossom and open up with that capability of grappling the opponent. And then I get to try to use all these different little graphics I put in here to be all kinds of different moves all combined. And the list is there, I just need to run through the list, and I'm hoping it will work. So anyway, thanks for watching, anybody who's keeping up. I know nobody gives a shit about this, and if you do, thank you very much. It's fine, it's not hurting my feelings at all if I get 50 views, you know. None of that really matters. This is documenting it, and you know, I think the most positive outcome could be that when the game comes out, it's exceedingly popular and it's a top-selling homebrew game, and then a wave of people will come back and watch the creation of the game. That could also happen with Yeet Fighter, and for, you know, the sake of helping people program, but also for, you know, validating what I'm doing and preserving what I'm doing as an eccentric programmer. You know, I'm not a seasoned assembly programmer. I'm a animator and a pixel artist first, and then the simplification of the process available with Atari Basic and Visual Atari Basic is the avenue I can take to make my visions happen for a what appears on the surface to be an archaic, hobbled, old system with terrible graphics and not much capabilities. And I want to say, hey, well, we can still do a lot with it, you know. And so even looking at this looks better than most Atari games, and that's what we're going for here. I want to get a really super good looking Atari game that's really, really fun to play, so that people can play and say, hey, can you believe this is a 2600 game? So thanks for watching, and stay tuned. The next video might be grappling and maybe some moves worked in there.